Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of season 3 of episode 2, all about the player's perspective on the GW announcements. With me today are my panel, Natakue, Tony, and needing to get some sort of perspective outside the U.S., Chef 40K. Let's move on to question number 4. There are a ton of reasons cited for the increase in price that we've seen online, announcements from GW themselves to rumor mills going crazy on why there has been an increase in price and the changes in GW's stance on online retailers. The cost of models, cost of molds, inflation, monetary value discrepancies, etc. Give me the 2 biggest reasons you can see GW is making these changes. And I was going to start with Chef, but I'll be honest with you, I'm going to start with Tony.
Yeah, probably better.
I think there's 2 primary reasons, and one holds true across all organizations. It's maximize shareholder wealth if you're public. If you look at their return statements for the past few years, their financials, they haven't had a good profit margin, in my opinion. So obviously they were doing stuff to decrease costs there, such as slashing store staff and other things of that nature internally to increase profit margins, reduce costs. Obviously upping the price does it for them immediately. Secondly is the internalizing of their business model. I think, as Natakue said, Finecast might only be available through GW distributors, meaning GW internalizes its supply, therefore increases the branding and reputation, and really brings profit back home because now they're charging you full price and they're not giving that 20, 30, 40, 50% discount that they would to a distributor like the War Store or your local game store. So I think those 2 reasons, max shareholder wealth and internalizing their business model, are the 2 reasons why you've seen the costs go up.
Okay. Natakue, what's your thoughts?
I'm trying to understand everything that he said.
I can use dumber words.
That'd be good for people here in Texas. My view on it is you look at it, they're probably increasing their prices because you've got, we've gone over already, the bigger models, more time in development of these models, supposedly the more materials used to make these models, and they're using computer design now, so they're paying, all this prices for power usage and stuff like that for using all the computers in their data center and all that other good stuff. I could go on and on and on, but I'm thinking it is from more of that aspect.
All right. Chef, try to hold to just 2 ideas, unlike Natakue.
Well,
sorry.
Tony somehow got a hold of my rough draft of my answers and took my answers, so I'll have to go, I'll have to skip all that market inflation and all that jazz, But
I didn't even say that.
No, but I mean they're gonna raise the prices because they can, and like the earlier questions about our first question about the current gamers that are in the hobby already, we're gonna pay those prices. They'll raise the prices no matter what, and we will still pay them because we love the hobby, and that's it. That's all.
All right. Okay, from my perspective, I see 2 main things. Tony touched on one of them, and that is the fact that they're a public company. Quite often you have shareholders that are short-sighted on the longevity of the company and care much more about seeing profit immediately. And even if, and I'm not saying that it is, but even if GW's stock price is well over what it should be, it's overinflated, they're going to want to maintain that high level of growth. And I don't know that it's an income stock, but generally speaking, it's showing the shareholders that they're holding true. The fact that the CEO is probably by far and away the largest shareholder of GW, I'm sure that doesn't hurt perspectives from his on his views on this. Reason number 2 is actually because I think they actually want to get involved more with the things that are far more profitable, and that they're basically sending those costs to us. What are those things that are more profitable? Licensing their IP to Dawn of War developers, or even trying to get, Joe Schmo Codex Productions to create another Ultramarines movie. While these things might not net those companies very much, literally just going, sure, you can have my IP. It costs me nothing to develop, costs me nothing to build a product around. You're just giving me money for free. I think that somehow adds to the equation. Continue discussion.
I think there is a cost in that, Brian, and that's brand recognition and brand loyalty. So everything GW does is an embodiment of their brand. So they have to maintain that and sustain that and make it something that people want to invest in. And let's be honest, GW does that kind of branding because their bread and butter and what their core is, their core competency is this miniatures battle game. They do make money off the video games. They do make money off the storyline, but all that feeds back into selling plastic crack, to be quite honest. So there is a cost to building that brand. It can be an expense, depending upon who you talk to. But there is a cost to it. And I think they're just ignoring it, for lack of a better term. They're ignoring it on the fluff with the way they do unit selections in the codexes. They're ignoring it in terms of the way the games play, where Dark Elder can bolter shots from Marines in Dawn of War, but they fall over in a stiff breeze on the tabletop. I think they're ignoring their brand and they're not recognizing the cost that's implied by it.
Well, the Dawn of War franchise has just recently posted an article saying that they have, I think, in April, shipped 6.5 million units of the game in the franchise itself, which I think represents a significant number of people who do not play the tabletop game at all. And it's because of that if I remember correctly reading, GW relicensed their product to Relic Games for like another 3 years, which again, it seems like if you want to start getting into more of the multimedia, which gives you free publicity, outside of the circle of gamers that play tabletop games, that maybe they do need to create a bit of an investment into that. But
don't forget, they're also coming out with their MMO, which I bet they're hoping will attract more people to the miniature game as well, because you're going to have a whole new breed come into their IP. So, I mean, and that's going to be out within the next year or two as well. So,
and that doesn't include the third-person shooter Space Marine that's coming out. Chef, any extra thoughts?
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Natakue. I mean, the MMO is going to definitely bring more people in because, let's face it, the type of person that's going to be playing that MMO is more likely the type of person that's going to play a tabletop war game rather than someone who's playing Call of Duty or something like that, you know?
But maybe not at the added expense. Question number 5, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it hurts GW's competition, 10 being GW's competition gets a huge boost in sales, what effect will GW's policies have on its competition in the tabletop gaming space? Natakue, you're up.
I'm totally off base.
I think it's going to be about a 9, 8 to a 9. I think the price increase is going to drive other people to play different games, specifically more skirmish-based games that are not a huge dent in your wallet. Stuff like Privateer Press, stuff like Anima Tactics, and other smaller games like that. And some other companies are probably going to be producing smaller skirmish-type games that will get the interest of other people. So I think it's going to, in the long run, it's going to help the competition but hurt GW.
Tony, what's your thoughts?
I'm going to give it a 6 across the board. Privateer Press might get a 7 because Privateer Press invades things like Adepticon and steals GW people directly. But everybody else is just going to get a minor trickle down. A lot of people's 40K fantasy or bust. And although the skirmish games are fun, the one thing that 40K and fantasy has held true is it's a war. It's a massive battle. Hundreds of models, dozens of tanks on the field. The skirmish games just don't compete in terms of scale. That doesn't make them worse or better. It just makes them different. And for some people, they want that large war effect or they don't want to play this game at all. So I'm going to give it a 6.
Before we move away from you, what about Mantic games?
I don't know much about Mantic games, to be honest.
I think they could put a hurting on GW if they keep on going. Right now, I don't think so, but I think in the long run, Mantic could be a competition to GW.
All right,
I know nothing about Mantic games.
Chef, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Chef, you're up. What's your thoughts on that?
Once again, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much experience in other games. I've dabbled in War Machine and Hordes. I haven't played much other than Privateer Press. So as far as they go, it's a total different breed of gamer. I mean, like Tony said, it's a skirmish style game. It's a different style. It's a different gameplay. With GW, you get that massive, you get the big, many units. So you're gonna get that niche market of people who want massive, epic battles, and you're always gonna get those people because GW sells it so well. It looks so good in the magazines and all the pictures. It's just, they present epicness beautifully.
I'm a little bit more pessimistic than everyone else here. I'm going to actually say it's about a 4, and the reason, some of the reasons have been brought up, but you do have that veteran player who's been with 40K who finally decides to leave, and the mentality of them leaving has to be one of complete frustration and disgust with the fact that they've already invested so heavily in a particular game that deciding that they're going to pick up another game that might not have as many people involved in it will not appeal to them for fear of the same sort of issue to occur. I still think that the door gets cracked open, and like Tony said, maybe a little bit more for Privateer Press, maybe bump that up to a 6. But I think that quite honestly, the fact that as the market leader, if GW does these kinds of things, that it's not necessarily meaning free money in the pockets of its competition. Continued discussion.
I think that is going to be an issue, Brian. I mean, when you have such a monopoly, which GW basically is, they're not U.S. based and nobody really cares about miniatures hobbies, business-wise. But, when you have such a huge monopoly that GW is, there's only so many people who ever play any of these games, Privateer Press, War Machine, only certain niche consumers. So once GW drives that person away, they drive them away from everybody, and now they're not going to touch it ever again. It's a small percentage, but when you have such a small market to begin with, they kind of self-imploded for everybody. So it will have an impact, unfortunately, for some companies negatively, if they don't jump in like Privateer Presses and capture those people and give them an alternative. Because if there's not an alternative, there's only one choice, which is just to quit entirely.
Any additional discussion? Nope. Okay, we're going to move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
I said no.
Okay. He confuses me. I can't help it. All right. Here we go. Question number 6. And this is a very personal question. I really don't want any commenters leaving any negative stuff regarding this question because it is a personal opinion question based on for my panel. Will you be sticking with GW games? And if so, what are the reasons that you'll be staying? If not, what games are you going to? And would you stay with them if they also inflated their cost by as much as 20%? We're going to start this question off with Chef 40K.
Perfect. I'm definitely going to stick with GW. I mean, I don't see why I wouldn't. So far, they've made me happy. So a little bit of a price increase, if anything, is just going to make me a little more, I guess, prudent with how I spend my money with them. I won't be going to the LFGS and just, throwing money at them. Woo, give me everything you got. It's going to be, I'm going to go to the store with buy a couple of things, and it's definitely, we'll be buying less, but I don't see why I would just stop buying GW because they're going to increase their prices. I mean, sure, some people can't afford it, and it really does suck, but they do good stuff, and I love it, so. All right. End of story.
Tony, what's your thoughts?
Even though I currently don't own any 40K or any fantasy, I will be sticking with GW, and the answer is very simple. It's one of the most popular game systems. Now, here in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, War Machine has that kind of feel, and I can go in any store and probably get a pickup game, but I still hold on to my Northeastern values where GW is, what people play. So the ease of entry, I lay out that cash investment, but I can go to the game store and know people will know the rules. They'll have product on the shelves and I can go play. That's a huge incentive to stick with the game system. But I'm also hopping on Privateer Presses, Fords, and War Machine. I'm hopping on Spartan Games, Dystopian Wars, and I might even look into Battlefront's Flames of War if there's a market available for it. But my main incentive is there's a market for GW and there isn't for anything else, really, depending upon your location. So, yeah, I will be sticking with them.
Tony, wanting to answer every question, now going to Natakue.
To answer the first, it's a multi-part, it's kind of personal with me, this question. To answer the question about sticking with GW, Yes, not because I want to, but because I kind of have to. The gaming group that I play, that's all they play. They play 40K. They don't play anything else. So I'm going to be sticking with it, but I'm not going to be buying very much more from here on out. And my purchasing in GW will be very sparse, and it'll just be thing here and thing there, and I won't be making any more armies than what I currently have because I've invested so much in what I have. As far as other games, yes, I'm going to be playing other games that do not hurt the wallet as much as GW does, such as Heavy Gear. I'm going to invest Heavy Gear Blitz. Actually, I'm going to invest a little bit more time into Anima Tactics because it's a small skirmish game and it's very inexpensive to get into, and it's actually a fun game. But yes, I'm going to stay with GW because I'm kind of forced to, because I enjoy the companionship, I guess you'd say, of my friends and when we have our games, and that's the game that they like to play.
Am I sticking with GW? In spirit, not really. It's not that I'm getting rid of the army, but I don't really play GW stuff anymore, and it's not so much that I have a hate for the game system itself. It's just the reality that, as Tony pointed out, in this area, there's so many more people playing other games that I'm not required to stick with them. And so I'm moving over to the Warmahordes type group. If they bumped up their price by 20%, would I stick with them? No, but I think there I would follow Chef 40K's example and being a little bit more vigilant about what I buy. But when a $10 or $11 light warjack gets bumped up by 20%, it's a little bit easier to handle that kind of increase than a $50 box of Terminators going up by 20%. Can you continue discussion?
I agree totally with you what you're saying about the price for, say, War Machine versus GW. I mean, going up 20%, say it's $18 and then goes up 20%.
Now I want to make a statement. Privateer Press, please don't do that.
But when you've got a 20% hike on X vehicle, Land Raider or Razorback or Valkyrie or anything like that, that's a pretty big jump. And it's just for people like in my case, who's about the only breadwinner in the family, that you can't afford to be paying that much for a vehicle all the time. You just can't.
Any further discussion?
I totally agree. I mean, I live by myself, paying a ton of rent, and I can't afford ridiculous prices. So I'm definitely going to have to be extremely vigilant with my hobby purchases from now on.
And in all truthfulness, because of that, from the standpoint of GW as a corporate entity, you're not really with their game anymore.
No. I mean, I'm definitely not spending what they want me to spend on the hobby, or I won't be spending what they want me to spend on the hobby.
Right. Any further discussion, or should we jump to the prediction question? Prediction question it is. All right, here we go. Question number 7. Question number 7, the prediction question. Realizing that when the dominant company of an industry changes things, that they affect the industry as a whole. A prime example of this was when Coke had production issues in Europe, and it affected negatively the stock price of Pepsi. Give a prediction, no matter how outlandish, about the future of Games Workshop and tabletop gaming in general. And for this, we're going to start with Natakue.
Oh, darn it. Yeah, I knew he was going to do that. That's an outlandish prediction. Well, I guess the prediction will be is this. Tabletop wargaming is not going to go anywhere, I should say. It's not going to disappear entirely, but it's going to become more of a rarity if GW keeps on increasing the prices. Because, as you said, they affect everybody else as well, even though other companies have nothing to do with GW. Since they're the leader, they affect them. So my prediction is this. If GW keeps on doing what they're doing, yes, they're still going to be in business, but they're going to make tabletop wargaming more of a rarity than it is now.
All right, Tony, you're up.
Privateer Press is going to go public. And by going public, they're going to be able to go right after Games Workshop where it hurts financially. They're going to be able to swap over all their metals to resin. They're going to be able to do their branding and marketing. They're going to be able to host their own events, do the things Games Workshop used to do. They're going to provide that product support. And they're going to be able to get a hold of things like Relic and stuff, because I think a lot of those turn-based games on the computer will really handle well, and you'll start to see a two-party system in wargaming, even as the bubble shrinks.
Chef, what's your thoughts?
Wow. I'd have to say, I don't think GW is going to bomb or anything. I have to say that if anything, like Natakue said, the wargaming franchise, or whatever you want to call it, the whole community as a whole will shrink. But, I don't see anything super significant happening. But if you had to ask me for something outlandish, prices of plastic and resin and pewter go skyrocket, and then GW switches to hardwoods.
That is an awesome
Maplewood Land Raider.
awesome, which I can stain. Man, I had an outlandish prediction, but man, that one totally takes the cake. Okay, my prediction is that there's more to the story about why GW is doing what they're doing, and it's stuff that we don't understand and we don't know. One thing that definitely kind of pops in my mind might be that they're looking to be acquired, and that would be another interesting prospect. But I think the big change that you're going to see in tabletop gaming is that more companies, not just GW, are going to go down the path of electronic video gaming, which has a much bigger market, to start drawing people in. You're already seeing this with Privateer Press trying to come out with a third-person type combat game for their War Machine line. I think it's going to be just if you want to be a big player, that eventually there's got to be some sort of tie-in with markets outside of the tabletop gaming industry. And that's it for the roundtable discussion. This was my panel. Smurf could not attend, so Tony definitely jumped in as nearly a co-host, because he's been in like all of the last 4 episodes, which is good, because that means if he shows up on the award show, he'll have some videos that he can reference in his answers. Peace, guys.